So in every video, at the end, I always mention to you guys, if you have any comments, questions, or beers you want to review in the future, to let me know down in that comment box below. Not many people take up that offer, but very some people do. And this week was a great example of that. I'm going to read a comment that was dropped on my Laker Red video this past week from John Terrence. He says, "Can you do a comparison between Laker Red and LakerIce? I've been drinking LakerIce for a while. I like the higher alcohol content and I like the price. Laker Red is comparable in both alcohol content and the price range. But I find LakerIce to be a bit bland in taste. I'd like to know if Laker Red is a more bold taste. Of course, I can just buy myself a bottle or can, which of course I'll do, but I'd like to know what your 2 cents are between these two products." So John, thank you again. I did reply back to him, giving him a quick little heads up about the differences between the two. But today we're going to get into a little bit more detail. The most detail that I can give you might not be all 100% correct, because I don't know everything. But you know, I'll try to give a good representation. So without further ado, let's crack these beers open. Let's see what's the difference between Laker Red and LakerIce. Beer, 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 beer. Hello everybody, welcome back to me, Maperuski, for not a beer review, but I'm doing a video. If you obviously seen the intro, so you know what's going on. Today I'm taking a look at both Laker Red and LakerIce, brewed by the Waterloo Brewing Company out in, well, Waterloo, Ontario. And this comes from a comment again by John Terrence. I want to say Torrance for some reason, but I know it's Terrence. John Terrence, he dropped a comment asking me what's the difference between these two beers, because one, they're priced the exact same, the ABV is the exact same, but they're two completely different beers. So what are these? We have LakerIce on the left, my left, your right, at 5.5% ABV. It is a ice beer, or a pale lager. And on the other hand, we have Laker Red, a red ale. So there's a big difference there. Let's crack these bad boys open. Both of them coming in at 5.5% ABV. Don't remember the IBUs off the top of my head. Nothing listed on the on the cans, and nothing listed on the website. Maybe Untapped has something. I will double check for you. Let's crack these two open. We're going to see an immediate difference between both of these beers. And here we go. Boom. Here we go. Now looking at these two beers, there is a clear difference. The red is much darker. Well, not too much darker, but darker than the ice here. The ice is a nice golden color, super clear. The red is definitely clear as well, but more of a amber hue to it. Not as dark as when you think Rickards or like Rickards Red, Keith's Red, or oh, why can't I think of the name? From Lake of Bays. I just had it the other day. Wow, that's gonna bug me. Okay, Lake of Bays. You know which one I'm talking about. Oh, geez, why do I not? Why is it escaping my mind? It's their red ale. Oh, that's gonna bug me. Here we go. Sparkhouse Red. Yeah, definitely not as dark. But what's the difference between these two beers? So we have LakerIce, which I said is an ice beer, a lagered. It's a lager, but it's an ice beer. And ice beers are pretty cool things in my opinion, how they're actually made. I don't know if this is made the exact same way or it's just a higher ABV lager, but traditionally ice beer is pretty cool. We're gonna get to that in a hot sec. And then over here we have Laker Red, like I said, going more for that red ale style of beer. So you have one major difference between these two right now. One is a lager and one is an ale. Lagers are bottom fermented, so the yeast ferments at the bottom rather than the top, and they take longer to ferment and ferment. You know, the whole process takes a bit longer because they need to be lagered at a colder temperature versus ales like this red ale here, which are top fermented. Yeast likes to hang out at the top, do its thing, and they usually take about, I don't know if there's a real average, but what I've seen is that they take about half the time, I think, on average, compared to lager. So that's a big difference there. Also, the types of yeast that are being used are also much different. Ales usually ferment hotter, not extremely hot, but warmer than your lagers, which like to ferment down in the low, maybe like sub 10 degrees Celsius area, and ales can go anywhere usually from, I think, usually I fermented ales around 18 to 20 degrees, so a little bit difference there. But in terms of style of beer, red ale, what am I doing? Why am I talking so much? Let's have a drink. Cheers, everybody. Shit. Wow, I've been talking for so long, I haven't had a drink. Cheers again. Both not bad beers. They are cheap. They're cheap beers. Don't get me wrong. They're $2 per can. $2 per can. So you're not going to break the bank. They're not the most amazing beers. Let's start off with that. But you know what? They're cheap. They're effective, and they taste pretty damn good for the price that you're paying. Where was I? The difference between the two. Yes. So, LakerIce, lager, golden in color, using more of like, pale 2-row malts, lighter colored malts, indeed, maybe some light crystal malts in there depending on who you are, but definitely more lighter colored malts. The little grains. I should maybe have a picture somewhere around here or somewhere. I'll show you a picture of a malt. And not as hoppy, really. The hops are definitely more not in your face, more on the. They don't have a huge presence per se. Even with reds, you don't have a big, huge hoppy presence either. But red ales are generally made with a little bit of a darker malt. You obviously have your lighter malt base for sure. But in reds, you're maybe looking at some more darker crystal malts, some specialty roasted malts, even some chocolate malts, depending on who you are. I know Sparkhouse uses chocolate malts in theirs, giving it a darker appearance because of the darker style of malt there is. The color obviously gets transferred into the wort, which then when is when it's fermented, it becomes beer. So that's a big difference. There's the types of malts that are used. Lagers generally lighter colored malts for the most part. Red ales a little bit darker, not as dark as stouts, porters, brown ales by any means, but a little darker than say your ambers. Ambers and reds. I see that in some beers kind of get switched back and forth between the two, but for me, reds are definitely a definite separate style compared to ambers. But we're not talking about ambers or anything like that. LakerIce, the ice beer, if I'm not mistaken, is a Canadian invention per se. And what's happened with these beers is that it's a lager style beer, but what they've done to them is that they freeze it. They freeze the beer because beers or drinks with alcohol in them have a lower freezing temp than water. And what would happen? They would create a beer, freeze it, and what they would take that ice chunk out, and whenever that ice chunk's out, I guess it's all the water in there, it's removing that portion, and the alcohol content of the beer shoots up. So say a beer finished at 5% ABV, they froze it, took that chunk of ice out. There's a bunch of math and other shit I'm not going to get into because I don't remember off the top of my head, but the concentration of alcohol in that beverage is now higher than it was pre-freezing. Again, I don't know if LakerIce is done like that because it seems like a more expensive style of process compared to just brewing, fermenting, and then bottling and aging and all that stuff of a regular beer. So $2, I don't see that happening, but a play on the style. So yeah, that's where ice beers come from. It's a lager, it's frozen, ice is taken out, alcohol goes up, and you can continuously do that over time. They call it freeze distillation, at least that's how I've learned it. And it's a pretty cool thing. I've never done it. I've read a little bit about it. I think it was in my what class was that? Microbio class, if I'm not mistaken. We had a little few slides on it. And it's something I really want to try. Obviously, you lose more volume because you're freezing part of that volume and taking it out, but you could really get that alcohol up there. You just have to make sure you have the right types of freezers, because the higher the ABV, the lower the freezing temperature is going to be of that liquid. So, stuff to note. Usually if you're at your home, I don't think you'll be able to get it super boozy, but say you lived up north where you can consistently have like colder and colder days, you could theoretically get a pretty boozy beer through this freeze distillation. Obviously there's no distilling involved, it's just called that, or at least that's how I learned about it. I bet you could do the same thing with a red ale or any other style of beer. I don't think it just has to be specific to lagers. But yeah, pretty cool thing with ice beers. Again, not too sure if LakerIce does that. I highly doubt it that they do it in the traditional method. I think they just maybe do a higher ABV lager compared to, say, their regular lager. But that was how they used to do it. They froze it, took ice out, ABV shot up. I don't know how much per freezing activity, not activity, but time period, how much the ABV actually shoots up. But it is something that's pretty damn cool. Now, between these two beers, what's the difference? Other than, style, method of brewing, and color. Well, LakerIce tastes like a regular old beer, just like a regular lager. A little bit of sweet, caramel, a little bit of a corniness to it, a little bit of like a sweet, watery sort of flavor to it, but really not much else. Very low on the aroma, grainy, little bits of corn, little cereal. What else? Really not much. The aroma on here is pretty light. Over on the red side of things, you do get a bit more caramel and toffee notes off of the nose compared to the ice. Not much in this particular rendition, but more than here. And as for the flavor, definitely more caramelly and toffee notes. This one has a little bit of earthiness to it. And not really any nuttiness, no roastiness, no real chocolatiness, but just a little bit more of a, bolder of a flavor, like John in his comment was saying earlier. A little bit bolder. Really, between the two, I do prefer the red. To be completely honest, just has that extra bit of oomph to it. But then again, Laker they don't have super bold tasting beers. They're definitely more of that beer for every kind of person, People can hop onto the red, can hop onto the ice, can hop onto their Pilsner. What else do they have? Pilsner, not Pilsner, the regular lager, ice, and then red. I don't think they have light. I haven't seen the light. They have an IPA apparently, but I have not seen the IPA or the light in any LCBOs. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. I keep going to this one just because I'm left-handed and it's easier to grab, but I do prefer the red. Red has also a little bit more biscuity note to it, but compared to other beers of the same sort of styles, these don't have a lot of a big flavor, presence or intensity compared to others. Laker Red's a solid beer. LakerIce is a solid beer for the cost that it is. There's a lot of other shittier beers out there like Old Milwaukee, PBR, in my personal opinion. Terrible stuff. If you're needing to buy cheap beer and you want something decent for the money you're paying, Laker's definitely a solid beer lineup for that sort of endeavor. But yeah, that's kind of the difference between the two. I hope that made sense. To recap, we have a red ale, we have a lager, we have an ale, we have a lager. Sounds like I'm repeating myself, but those are the two categories, ales and lagers. For the most part, no, yeah, that's pretty much it. Other difference between the two. Traditionally, freeze distillation is used with ice beers. Don't think it's happened with this one. Red ale, pretty solid, straightforward brewing method compared to every other kind of beer out there. And on taste profile between these two, lighter, crisper, a little corny, a little grainy, light caramels. On the reds, you have more of your bigger caramels, toffees, a little biscuity, even a little earthy at times in comparison in flavor profile. Sorry. That's pretty much it where I'm gonna wrap this up. There's really not much else to talk about. If you're interested in any of these beers, definitely gonna be at your local LCBOs in the Ontario area. I don't know if Laker's sent out to other places, or if it's just in Ontario. But they are part of that discount beer sort of lineup, and I would say it's definitely one of the more top discount beers in my opinion. Plus, it's a kind of cool variety. Usually, a lot of the beers are just like lagers, regular lagers, or your ice lagers. Not much variety. But with Laker, you get a few. You get your regular lager, you get your ice, and then you get a red ale. At times, you can get a light, and apparently an IPA. Again, haven't seen the last two, but you have those 4 options. Again, they're $2 a can. Throw a toonie at your local LCBO clerk, or put it on the table. Don't chuck it at them. And there you go. You get a can of beer. Think that's it. I really think that's it. I think I covered as much as I could. And I hope that answers your question, John. I do appreciate you commenting, asking, me a little question about the two styles of beer here. Both solid beers for the price that you pay. A lot of stuff that's better out there, in my humble opinion, but for what you're paying, you're getting a pretty damn good deal. For you, John, if you really like the reds, because it seems like you prefer the red over the ice, if you're looking for a really cool, tasty red, it's definitely going to be that, oh geez, why am I forgetting? Spark House red ale from Lake Bays. It's a little bit more, but I don't think the price is that much different. What is it? It's $3.35, $3.25. So $1.25 more than your Laker Red. Going to be a hell of a lot better of an experience for you. And in terms of ice beers on like a higher price point, or more, I guess, crafty, craft beer sort of thing or example, you don't see many. Don't think I've ever seen a craft iced lager, in my humble opinion. Usually they're part of that discount brands, discount beer sort of style thing. Don't see them in the craft beer scene, which is weird. Which is really weird, because I think at least somebody would have done it, but thus far, I haven't seen it. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you, John, again for your question, letting me shoot this little video. Hope it answered the question for you. Hope I didn't stumble over too many words or make it too long. I'm gonna have fun editing this one, trying to cut where I need to cut and paste where I need to paste. But that's pretty much it. Before I leave you guys, if you have any comments, questions, or beers you want to review in the future, or anything else, you can leave all that information down in the comment box below. If you want to go ahead and like this video or subscribe to me, Mate Brewski, that'd be greatly appreciated as well. And with all that said, that's going to do it for me, Mate Brewski. Like I always say, crack a beer and enjoy. Or shit, crack two. Cheers.